What if I told you your backyard's next transformation is already hiding in your trash bin? Old bottles, broken branches, used tires, forgotten, until now. In today's video, we're turning the ordinary into extraordinary. 15 stunning DIY garden borders born entirely from recycled materials. Every frame tells a story of second chances, and one of them might just inspire yours. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, a channel where imagination meets sustainability. Here, we don't just decorate, we reimagine what's possible using what we already have. This video is filled with timestamps for every DIY idea, so feel free to jump to the ones that spark your curiosity. And if something inspires you, drop a comment. I love reading your thoughts and hearing your stories. Recreate, remix, and make it your own. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this, there's a story, and a small family chasing a dream. When you subscribe, you're not just following a channel, you're keeping that dream alive. Thank you for seeing me, and for helping hope stay alive, one click at a time. In a tiny backyard that once felt forgotten, something magical began to bloom, not from fancy garden stores, but from the quiet creativity of hands that refused to waste. One by one, old tires found new life. A small green tire became a cheerful frog, smiling beneath the morning sun. Another turned white with pink ears, hopping into the world as a bunny planter filled with lavender and marigolds. Each brushstroke carried a little story, of patience, of joy, of giving discarded things a reason to stay. When the paint dried, the colors gleamed against the summer light, and the flowers seemed to dance above them, alive with bees and butterflies. It wasn't about perfection, it was about heart. The creator used soft brushes and outdoor acrylic paint, sealing the surface with a thin coat of weatherproof varnish, just enough to let the rain kiss it without washing the story away. Now the backyard hums with character. The frog smiles. The bunny watches. The cat guards the marigolds. It's a parade of second chances, bright, charming, and a little bit wild. Visitors pause, smile, and whisper, "How did they think of that?" Because in truth, beauty doesn't always come from new things. Sometimes, it's reborn, from trash, from love, and from the courage to see magic where others see waste. When sunlight dances across the garden, something extraordinary happens, a quiet shimmer, a flicker of color, like the earth itself decided to smile. What was once a pile of empty plastic bottles has become a border of light. Each one catches the sun differently, mint green soft as morning dew, lavender gentle as a summer breeze, yellow warm as laughter. It's simple, really, but not ordinary. Every bottle is cleaned, cut, and painted with translucent acrylics, a touch of varnish sealing the hue. When lined along the soil, they glow like stained glass born from everyday life. There's no electricity, no batteries, only sunlight and imagination working hand in hand. As the day moves, the colors shift, morning brings gentle blues, noon explodes into fiery orange, and dusk turns the bottles into small lanterns of fading light. Behind them, the flowers whisper in the wind, their colors reflected twice, once in their petals, and again in the bottle glow below. Visitors always ask, "Where did you buy those?" But the secret isn't in the buying, it's in the seeing. It's seeing beauty in the ordinary, color in what's thrown away. Underneath the blur of summer green, the border gleams, a reminder that creativity doesn't cost much, and the most stunning things in a garden might just come from yesterday's trash. There's something healing about colors meeting earth. Each stone, once dull and forgotten, now carries the hues of summer, bright coral, lemon yellow, ocean blue, and deep violet. Together, they form a path of joy, bending softly around the flowers like a ribbon of sunlight left on the ground. It began with a handful of river stones, heavy, plain, nothing special. But with a few strokes of outdoor acrylic paint and a little patience under the warm afternoon light, they turned into something extraordinary. The secret wasn't precision, it was play. Paint splattered on fingers, laughter echoing across the patio, a mix of colors that didn't care about perfection. Once dried, a thin coat of clear sealant brought the shine alive, making every shade reflect the sun like drops of glass. When arranged along the garden border, the stones didn't just decorate, they transformed the space. The flowers seemed brighter, the soil richer, the entire yard somehow happier. People often think beauty costs money. But here, beauty costs only time, a few old brushes, and the courage to dream in color. Now every morning, when sunlight hits the rainbow border, it feels like the garden itself is smiling. A reminder that even the smallest stones can hold the world's brightest light if you choose to paint them with joy. There's a quiet poetry in wood, the lines, the scars, the way time leaves its signature. Along a tiny backyard path, old logs now stand tall once more, forming a rustic border that looks as if it has always belonged there. Each piece carries its own story, bark chipped by weather, rings of age visible beneath the sun, and the scent of earth woven into its grain. No machines. No expensive kits. Just patience, a few clean cuts, and the simple rhythm of placing one log beside another. The trick lies not in precision, but in letting imperfection breathe, uneven edges, gentle curves, the beauty of natural alignment. A touch of outdoor varnish seals the wood, but not its soul. When sunlight pours across it in late afternoon, the logs glow amber, framing the flower beds like an old countryside fence. It feels timeless, grounded, the kind of beauty that doesn't try too hard. The flowers bloom brighter here, their roots protected, their colors framed by weathered wood. And when the wind moves through the leaves above, the garden whispers softly, stories of forests, of time, of quiet hands turning scraps into something lasting. In the end, it isn't just an edge, it's a memory, a humble border that holds the spirit of the earth itself, reminding us that sometimes, the simplest materials create the deepest calm. At the farthest corner of the yard, where grass once grew wild and forgotten, something enchanting quietly appeared. It began with an old tire, dull and gray, waiting for a second life. A coat of lilac paint, a brush dipped in imagination, and suddenly, it wasn't trash anymore. It was the foundation of a world no bigger than a dream. Tiny doors made of bark leaned against mossy edges. Pebbles became stepping stones. Twigs turned into bridges. A single drop of morning dew sparkled like a lantern. It was simple work, almost childlike, no blueprints, just instinct and joy. The hands that built it didn't aim for perfection, only wonder. A thin layer of sealant kept the paint safe from rain, and the flowers, daisies, alyssum, and creeping thyme, grew into soft blankets of green and white. When sunlight filtered through in the afternoon, the scene glowed as if the fairies had truly come to stay. Neighbors stopped by, smiling. Children crouched low to peek inside. Some swore they saw tiny lights flicker at night. Maybe it was reflection. Maybe not. But that's the charm of it, a touch of mystery living inside something once discarded. The Tire Fairy Garden doesn't shout for attention, it whispers magic. And in that quiet whisper lies its power, proof that even the most ordinary corners can hold entire worlds if you look with wonder instead of waste. It started with a fence, plain, weathered, and silent. But sometimes the quietest places are just waiting for a bit of color. Old bottles, once bound for the trash, found a new destiny here. With a careful cut and a splash of pastel paint, they became little vessels of life. Each bottle now holds a story, a cluster of petunias cascading down like laughter, lavender swaying softly in the wind, marigolds beaming like tiny suns. The fence, once a divider, now feels alive, breathing through its blossoms. When sunlight filters through the painted plastic, the entire wall glows like stained glass for the earth. It's simple work, really: slice, paint, tie, and fill with soil. But the real magic isn't in the making, it's in the transformation. Plastic that once symbolized waste now stands proudly as a vertical garden, saving space while feeding beauty. At dusk, when the light softens and shadows stretch, the bottles shimmer gently, reflecting the last golden hues of the day. Birds perch nearby. Bees hum. And for a brief moment, even the fence seems to smile. Because in this wall of color, there's proof that imagination can grow anywhere, even on something meant to divide. What was once trash now binds the garden together, one blooming bottle at a time. The fence wasn't planned, it simply grew, like the branches that built it. Along the edge of a small garden, twisted limbs of fallen wood found new purpose, bending and weaving into shapes only nature could design. Each branch curved differently, as if remembering the wind that once shaped it. There were no straight lines, no perfect cuts, only instinct and rhythm. The builder's hands followed the grain, tying each piece with twine, letting the wood decide where it wanted to rest. Sunlight poured through the gaps, scattering golden lines across the soil, while vines began to climb and claim the structure as their own. It wasn't a fence meant to keep things out, it was meant to let beauty in. The rough bark, the soft moss, the way the shadows danced, all of it whispered a kind of harmony no factory could ever make. A thin coat of linseed oil brushed over the surface gave the wood a gentle sheen, enough to protect it from the rain without stealing its soul. And when the breeze moved through the garden, the branches creaked softly, not in protest, but in memory. Now, the twisted fence stands quietly, half sculpture, half sanctuary. It reminds anyone who passes that nature doesn't need perfection to be beautiful. It only needs someone willing to listen to its curves and let their hands follow. At first glance, they look like stone, smooth, steady, timeless. But beneath the warm glow of sunlight, you realize the truth. These borders were once plastic waste, melted down and reborn. What was thrown away now lines the garden with quiet dignity, each tile telling a story of transformation. The process is humble. Old containers, bottles, and discarded pieces find their way to a new mold. Heated, pressed, and shaped into soft earthy tones, they take on the texture of nature itself, rough yet gentle, practical yet beautiful. When placed along the edge of a tiny yard, they frame the garden like a piece of living art. The curved lines hug the soil, the colors blend with the earth, and sunlight dances on their smooth surfaces. They are waterproof, unyielding to rain, yet soft on the eyes. Neighbors might walk by and never guess their origin. But that's the beauty of it, the quiet kind of recycling that doesn't shout eco-friendly, but simply is. And when evening falls, the faint warmth of the day lingers in the tiles, holding the memory of sunlight just a little longer. The garden feels organized yet alive, wild yet contained. Here, waste has found purpose again, not in a landfill, but in a border that reminds us that renewal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in silence, shaped by care, and framed by recycled grace. It began with a handful of fallen twigs, nothing special, just remnants of a windy afternoon. But in the right hands, even the simplest things can become something beautiful. Slowly, patiently, each twig was gathered, cleaned, and tied together with coarse jute rope. The fence grew like a poem, line by line, around the garden's edge. There's a rhythm to this kind of work, the sound of rope tightening, the snap of bark, the rustle of leaves nearby. It's not fast. It's not perfect. But that's the charm. Every curve follows the hand's intuition, every knot carries a fingerprint of care. When the sunlight hits the fence at dawn, it glows golden against the soil. The ropes catch the light like threads of memory, and the twigs whisper quietly in the breeze. Flowers lean against it, marigolds, daisies, lavender, grateful for the support. A touch of linseed oil brushed across the surface keeps the wood breathing but protected, allowing nature's character to remain visible. Over time, moss will find its home here, softening the edges, blending man and earth into one picture. And that's the beauty of it, not just a fence, but a conversation. Between hand and nature. Between what was discarded and what was saved. Between what fades and what stays. A rustic border, yes, but also a quiet reminder that harmony is handmade. It's impossible not to smile when you see them, tall, colorful towers of life standing proudly in the middle of a tiny backyard. Once forgotten tires, heavy and worn, now bloom like summer itself. Each layer tells a story, the bottom, strong and steady, the middle, bursting with color, the top, crowned with flowers that catch the light. The creation feels almost playful, a brush dipped in tropical hues, a stack that grows like joy itself. The trick is simple: drill small drainage holes, fill with soil, and let your favorite flowers take over. But what matters most isn't the method, it's the spirit. When sunlight pours through, every tire seems to glow. Coral melts into yellow, teal fades into lavender, and the blossoms tumble down like ribbons of color. Bees wander between layers, butterflies rest on the petals, and suddenly the air feels lighter. It's not just decoration, it's rebirth. Trash turned to totem. Color turned to hope. The backyard transforms into a living sculpture, a reminder that creativity doesn't have limits, only beginnings. As dusk falls, the colors deepen, the air cools, and the tire totems stand quietly, guardians of the garden, symbols of second chances. And perhaps that's what every garden really is, a place where life begins again, again, and again. Every color has a sound if you listen closely enough. Red hums like laughter, blue whispers calm, yellow glows like afternoon sunlight. Together, they form a song beneath your feet, the soft clinking of bottle caps reborn as art. It began as a small idea, a jar full of caps collected over time, too pretty to throw away. But what can you do with hundreds of circles in every color imaginable? The answer came quietly, one evening after the rain, line the garden path with them. Let the colors guide your steps. The process is gentle and patient. Press each cap into the damp soil, arrange them by instinct, not by rule. Some shine brighter, some fade with age, and that's the beauty of it. A thin coat of outdoor resin seals their glow, keeping the rain from dulling their light. When morning comes, the sun catches on every cap like drops of melted candy. The garden becomes a kaleidoscope, each step a small discovery. Children love it. Adults slow down to look. Even butterflies land for a moment, drawn to the colors below. It's more than decoration, it's a story of tiny things made meaningful. Of waste turned to wonder. Of color finding its way back to the earth. And when you walk the path, barefoot, feeling the rhythm of light and color beneath you, it almost feels like the garden is smiling back. Every garden deserves an entrance, not to keep people out, but to invite wonder in. The archway rose slowly, branch by branch, like something the forest itself decided to build. Twigs twisted around each other, bound by jute rope and patience. It wasn't measured by ruler or design, it was guided by instinct, the curve of the hand, the rhythm of nature. When the final branch bent into place, the air changed. Sunlight streamed through the gaps, dappling the ground in shifting gold. Hanging blossoms swayed gently, lavender, jasmine, a whisper of ivy climbing toward the sky. There's something sacred about walking through it. The world on one side feels ordinary, the other feels alive. Children duck their heads and giggle. Adults slow their steps, somehow softer in spirit as they pass beneath the arc. A touch of linseed oil brushed along the wood keeps it strong against the rain, though time will still leave its mark, a little moss, a little memory. That's the beauty of it. The archway will grow older with the garden, their stories entwined. At dusk, when the light fades and the crickets begin to sing, the archway becomes more than wood and rope. It becomes a frame for the soul of the garden. A reminder that sometimes, all we need to cross into peace, is a doorway made by our own hands. Morning begins with scent, basil's sweetness, thyme's quiet sharpness, rosemary's calm strength. The fence, once plain and gray, now breathes life through hanging bottles that sway in the breeze. They move slightly, like wind chimes made of green. Each bottle tells a humble story. Once empty, once forgotten, now filled with soil and purpose. Painted in soft tones that blend with sunlight, they hang by sturdy cords, each one nurturing a tiny world. The air feels cleaner here, the space fresher. Even the smallest patio corner hums with energy. It isn't about having space, it's about using what you have wisely. A single bottle holds more than a plant, it holds possibility. Drill small holes for drainage, fill with light soil, tuck in a sprig of hope. Herbs don't ask for much, just sunlight, water, and a bit of attention. By afternoon, the bottles glow with green. Bees hover, the scent drifts, and the fence seems to hum softly with life. When you cook later, you reach out and snip what you need: basil for freshness, rosemary for warmth. There's something poetic in that moment, food grown from what was once trash, flavor born from a recycled dream. It's not just a herb wall, it's proof that even the smallest act of creativity can turn waste into abundance, and fences into living walls of aroma and renewal. Sometimes peace is found in the simplest circle, a tire once meant for motion, now resting, reborn as still water. The transformation begins quietly. The rubber cleaned, painted turquoise like a summer sky, half buried in the soil, filled with clear water that mirrors the world above. A few stones, a handful of moss, and soon, life begins to gather. Frogs visit in the morning, dragonflies hover like jewels, and lotus petals float like tiny prayers. The sound of water kissing sunlight fills the corner with calm. No complex tools, no noise, just a brush, patience, and a little imagination. A waterproof lining beneath keeps the pond pure, while the edges, brushed with soft paint, glow faintly when the sun dips low. At midday, the reflections blur the line between earth and sky. You look down and see clouds where soil once was, flowers blooming twice, once above, once below. And you realize, this isn't just decoration. It's transformation. The tire that once rolled across dusty roads now holds the reflection of the sky. It has found its final journey, not through motion, but through stillness. Every garden needs a heart, and sometimes, that heart beats softly under the surface of water. The mini pond doesn't shout for attention, it whispers serenity, reminding us that renewal doesn't always bloom in color. Sometimes, it ripples in silence. There's something powerful about saving what others forget. Each wooden frame begins the same: uneven planks, worn nails, scraps from something once useful. But under the rhythm of patient hands, the pieces come together again, breathing new life into form and purpose. The corners meet softly, imperfect yet strong. You can still see the stories in the wood: old paint marks, faint carvings, weather stains from time. That history isn't hidden, it's celebrated. With a gentle brush of varnish, the box glows, not polished, just honest. Inside, soil waits. Then come the flowers, daisies, basil, and mint, reaching for sunlight like they know they're part of a second chance. The air smells of wood and green, a blend of age and renewal. Sometimes, neighbors ask where the boxes came from. From what we already had, comes the answer. Because beauty doesn't need to be bought, it can be built. As the day fades, sunlight rests on the wooden edges, and the colors deepen, the flowers glowing like whispers of gratitude. It's a quiet transformation, trash to treasure, forgotten to reborn. Each box stands as proof that renewal is not about perfection, but perspective. The world gives us pieces, it's up to us to frame them into something worth keeping. And in that small act, a backyard turns into a sanctuary, one crafted not by wealth, but by wonder.